All right, now I'm going to call the formal City Council meeting for May 18, 2016 to order. Would our City Clerk please call the roll?
Councilman DeCiccio. Councilman Gates. Councilman Nowakowski. Councilwoman Pastor. Councilman Valenzuela. Councilman Waring. Here. Councilman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Gallego.
Here.
Mayor Stanton.
Here. We are fortunate to have Ms. Marquez here as our interpreter. Please introduce yourself for the audience.
Mi nombre es Leticia Márquez. Si alguien necesita asistencia o traducción al español, por favor vean. Gracias.
Thank you very much. We have citizen comments at this time. We have up to 15 minutes of citizen comments, 3 minutes per speaker. Ms. Greta Rogers, did you wish to come before this council and provide commentary?
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. You don't have a quorum.
All right. Oh, all right. See, we're going to hold off until we get one more. Danny's here. Okay, Councilman Valenzuela, please.
I wasn't able to be here yesterday, mainly because I didn't know what was going to take place, which speaks to an issue I've spoken about many times over the years, and that is that your public information office still gets an F. They don't know how to disseminate public information in a timely manner. I would like to see that improved and corrected, please. It isn't something that's going to cost you a lot of money. If I had been here, I would speak about what I'm going to speak about now, and that is that the agreed upon terms and conditions for continued employment in the next 3 years is disrespectful of the employees and despicable, in my opinion. Offering them less than the 4.2%, which would make them whole, it wouldn't include any COLs, is just not, in principle, honorable nor acceptable. These are the people that make this city run. The 11th floor, God knows, doesn't do it. And the 12th floor sets policy. It doesn't do the work. It's the 13 or 14,000 employees that we have, and we have an exceptional complement of employees in this city who make the engine go. They're the gas, they're the pistons, they're all the parts that make this city operate. And for you to accept this is shameless. And also, during the time that the budget was being contemplated, there was an article in the Republic on the 8th of May by a lady named Jennifer Stilo of the Arizona Tax Research Association. And she addressed the property tax, which I know you didn't decide on yesterday. And I have no objection to the property tax increase. As a matter of fact, I spoke in favor of it at the 8 budget hearings I attended. And I still am in favor of it. But she brought up something I'm not familiar with, and that is a giveaway in the form of GPLET to your favorite anointed developers. And I find that objectionable and indefensible. These people should be paying property taxes just like all the rest of us sitting in this room do. And G-Plet is a scam, and it needs to be stopped. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Rogers. I have no other cards for citizen request today, so we'll move on with our regular agenda. Would the city clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G6086 and 6163 through 6166, S42488 and 42522 through 42561, and resolutions number 21379, 21389, 21428, and 21433 through 21437.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll now move with the minutes of previous meetings. Councilmember Williams, have a chance to review the formal meeting minutes from April 20th, 2016.
I did, and move their approval.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. We have a motion on mayor's, boards, and commission nominations.
Motion to approve mayor's, boards, and commissions nominations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. How about city council member boards and commission nominations?
Motion to approve city council, boards, and commissions nominations.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those also pass unanimously. Do we have members of the public here to be sworn in? We have a few, okay. So I'll come down to the floor, be to my right, your left. I'll swear you in, and then please come behind the dais so that members of the council can thank you in advance for your service to the citizens of Phoenix. Good to see you. It's quality, not quantity today. That's good. So please raise your right hand. I, and state your name, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of, according to the best of my ability. So help me God. You're official. Thanks for your service. And please come behind me. Let's go.
Congratulations.
All right, next we'll move on to liquor license applications. Do we have an omnibus motion on liquor license applications?
Motion to approve items 1 through 18, except for items 2, 8, 9, and 11.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have a series of cards not wishing to speak. Looks like in favor of the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item is item number 2. Vice Mayor, how do you want to handle the Starbucks coffee applications?
We have 3 Starbucks liquor licenses, and I'll move them together. Move approval of items 2, 8, and 9.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Are there any cards on those items? Any comments by members of the City Council? No. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. It passes on a 8-to-1 vote. Next item is item 11. Do we have a motion on item 11?
I pulled out item 11, so.
Yeah, please. Or do you want to hear the cards first or hear a staff presentations? Up to you.
Actually, I would like to, who's representing El Super.
Let's see, Randy Roberts, are you applicant's representative?
He's a neighborhood.
Okay, Randy, I'm sorry. So Randy is in favor. You're not the applicant or applicant representative. Is the applicant or applicant representative here representing El Super, the applicant? Is anyone here representing the?
Mayor,
Oh, there he is. Okay,
Mr.
good.
Nations is here.
Excellent. I think the councilman may have some questions for you. All right, so please introduce yourself for the record, and then Councilman Pastor, the floor is yours.
Thank
My
you.
name is Randy Nations, with Arizona Liquor Industry Consultants, 1811 South Alma School Road, Suite 268 in Mesa.
Mayor and Council, Adam Baugh, with you Morris, 2525 East Arizona Biltmore Circle, here on behalf of El Super. Adam Baugh, 2525 East Arizona Biltmore Circle, here on behalf of El Super.
Councilman.
Thank you. When we went through this process, there was an agreement with the neighborhood as to certain items that would be sold in El Super. So I am just getting on the record that that would be still adhered to, and that we understand what those items are. Would you like me to read them, or you?
We are familiar with it. In fact, we had a chance to revisit with the community again and review their letter of support, specifically with regard to no single serve, which we intend to honor with this
Okay.
liquor license approval.
So that's what I
Yeah.
wanted a good faith effort and make sure that that's the agreement with the community.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I move to approve item number 11.
We have a motion on 11. Do we have a second?
Yes.
We do have a second? All right. Mr. Nations, you want to provide additional testimony?
I don't know.
Okay. Randy Roberts, you're in favor. Did you provide testimony? The motion is... I'm in favor. You're in favor, okay. And then how about A.J. Marsden? You marked neutral.
I'll move that to approve.
Okay. Thank you very much. And then not wishing to speak, in favor, Paul Ennis, strong neighborhood leader. And that's it. Okay, so the motion is in favor. There is a second. Any additional comments or questions by members of this council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item will be our ordinances, resolutions, and new business. Vice Mayor, are we ready with a omnibus motion?
We are. Motion to approve items 19 through 80, except the following. Items 20, 22A, 22K, 23, 42, 48, 56, and 77. Item 32 has been continued to September 7th, 2016. Item 47 has been continued to June 15, 2016. Item 19 has been withdrawn, and excluding these items for public comment, 20, 30, 42, 77.
Okay, that's the omnibus motion.
That included 56, correct? I can't remember. I'm trying to look at my numbers.
It did include a 56.
Okay, good. Thank you.
We need a second on the motion.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any comments or questions by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Yes. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, Vice Mayor?
Next item is item 20, move approval. I'm sorry, it's a city clerk reads the title.
Item 20, ordinance number G6086, an ordinance promoting commerce and innovation while protecting privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties in the use of unmanned aircraft systems by amending Chapter 23, Morals and Conduct, to add new Article 13, and amending Chapter 24, Parks and Recreation, Article 2, Division 2, Section 24-49 of the Phoenix City Code, and establishing an effective date.
like to make a motion on that if I could, Mayor.
Councilman DeCiccio?
I move to adopt Section 2 of the proposed ordinance G 6086 that amends the Phoenix City Code, Section 24-49, related to the takeoff and landing of drones and other model aircraft in city parks and preserves, and to adopt Section 3 of the proposed ordinance G 6086 to establish an effective date of July 1, 2016, and to make conforming changes to the proposed ordinance 6086 consistent with the intent of the motion. Bottom line, Mayor, it allows the city of Phoenix to comply with
Real quick,
federal law.
Councilman, is there a second on the motion? Second, go ahead.
Sorry. I got ahead of
Second.
myself. Sorry about that. The bottom line, what this does is it says that if anybody's going to be conducting any drone activity over the city parks, they just got to get a permission from the individual, from the city of Phoenix. That's really what it says. It doesn't prohibit anything, but it allows a process to be in place for those individuals that want to fly drones at city parks. Now, I'm a hiker. There are a lot of places that I believe that there are some places in our community that really ought to be left alone and be able to be preserved. I like to be able to, I think there are a lot of us that are out there that would like to be able to hike and not to have to worry about a drone flying over our head consistently. It still complies with federal law. And then there are those, we have children that are at our soccer games, baseball games, and if you can imagine what would it be like to have 3 or 4 of these flying, and if they were to connect, then you have a safety hazard over some of the kids. It just literally allows the city of Phoenix to put in place established rules that protect the public and protect our privacy and our quiet. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. So we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any cards on item 20? We have one here. Mr. Stuart Goodman, did you provide testimony on item number 20?
Mayor, members of the council, for the record, my name is Stuart Goodman, here on behalf of the Consumer Technology Association. Briefly, as you may recall, CTA is comprised of 2,200 members nationwide, ranging from large interests like Amazon and Google to small startups. Mayor, members of the council, the last 24 hours we've been working with Mr. DeCicio's office, the city attorney's office. We have reached an agreement on the language. There is going to be, as I understand it, a small tweak to subsection C. It's amazing what one word and a comma will do. With that, we believe that the ordinance is reflective of what occurred at the legislature relating to the ability for local governments to manage their own parks and preserves. That is something that we worked hard to preserve in the legislation. And again, we appreciate the work that the city's done, work that the council office has done, and again, creating that balance between your interests, public safety, and the legislation, as well as commercial interests of my client. Mr. Mayor, members, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Goodman? Thank you very much. Councilman?
I just want to thank him. I mean, I know it's been a little contentious at some points, but at the end of the day, I think we found a good balance from personal privacy and commercial activity. And I'm glad we were able to work this thing out. Thanks for all your work on it, Stuart.
Mayor, Mr. DeCiccio, thank you as well.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Goodman. Any other additional comments by members of this council? Questions regarding the proposal? We have a motion. We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Yes. Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Yes. Waring. Yes. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes unanimously. Before we move on to the next item, there are a couple other individuals who are here to be sworn in. We only did one individual when I went down to the dais. Both individuals are representatives for Council District 3, and a slight break from tradition, but because it is his last meeting, I want to test Councilman Gates' swearing-in skills. So I'm going to ask him to go down and swear in the two individuals from his district.
Okay, all right. Please raise your right hand. All right. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of North Mountain Village Planning Committee according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Thanks so much. And then our tradition.
I only found one more.
All right, thanks in advance for your service. Mr. William Marr, are you still here? Mr. Marr? All right, we'll make sure his card is put in for the record on a different item. Okay, next item on the agenda is 22A. Do we have a motion on 22A?
Move approval of both item 22A and 22K.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any comments by members of the council? Any cards on those items?
Hold on, I'd like you to pull out 22K. I'm okay with that.
Do you like them separately?
Is that all
Okay,
right?
I'm sorry. I withdraw the original motion. Move approval of item 22A.
Okay, so now the motion is just 22A, motion and a second. Any comments on that item? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Was it 2 noes?
8-1.
8-1. That passes on 8-1 vote. Now it's 22K.
Move approval of item 22K.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any comments on 22K? Questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes 8-1. Item 23 is next. Do we have a motion on item 23? City Clerk needs to read the title. Thank you.
Item 23, ordinance number G6163, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 3, Sections 2-96A and 2-96C of the Phoenix City Code related to the Judicial Selection Advisory Board.
That's okay. You go for it.
Move approval of item 23.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I have a.
Councilman Waring had a question first, and then I'll go to Councilman Pastor.
So really quick, I think this is a change to basically mirror state law. Is that a fair assessment, Karen?
Mayor, Councilman Waring, the changes that are proposed would mirror provisions in the Arizona Constitution regarding selection of state appellate court and trial court judges, as well as appellate court and trial court commission members.
Thank you.
Councilman Pastor?
I have a second motion. And substitute, I'm sorry. A substitute motion, sorry. My substitute motion is to move to approve the proposed amendments as written with the revision that the number of public members of the JSAB appointed by the mayor increase from 3 to 5 public, non-attorney members, and to make every effort to ensure that the compositions of these members is as diverse as possible.
That's the substitute motion. Do we have a second on the substitute motion?
Second.
You have a motion, we have a second. Are there any comments or questions regarding the substitute motion? Councilman DeCiccio.
Just a couple questions, because basically you can't put quotas out there. So when you say diverse as possible, what does that mean? Just we're working toward diversity. I'm okay with that language, as long as we're not setting in place criteria that says that it has to be certain types of individuals on there.
No, I'm saying diverse
possible.
from, diverse as possible. I am stating that diverse also in their background, education, all of it.
So it's just basically diverse that, all right, it's open. And then who makes the appointments as we expand it out? I mean, is that something that the council's still going to be
It's
selecting?
appointed by the mayor.
Appointed by the mayor, but
I think I make the suggestions and then the council has to approve.
Okay. Mayor, if I could.
Please,
Councilman
Ms. Peters.
DeCiccio, the proposed ordinance language indicates that the diversity of the city's population shall be considered when making appointments to the board, and similarly, that the diversity of the city's population would be considered when making recommendations for judicial office.
That also mirrors state law?
That's the state constitution.
That's the SAM, okay. Okay, any additional comments or questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes unanimously. Next item, I believe, is
Mayor?
item,
Just to clarify, so the substitution motion passed.
the substitute motion, yeah, the most substitute motion passed unanimously, and thereby disposing of the original motion. Yep, okay, substitute motion
Thank you.
passed unanimously, thank you. Next item is item number 30. We have a motion on number 30.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on item number 30. Item number 30 concerns a request authorization into a contract with Elite Taxi Cab LLC. There's a few cards wishing to speak on this item. Mr. Luis Rodriguez, did you wish to, the motion is in favor. Did you wish to speak on your card and indicate you're in favor of the proposal? You okay? How about Loreto Calderon? Same situation. And how about Harry Gerwal? You're in favor? Do you wish to speak on the item? Please. Up
Good
to 2
afternoon,
minutes.
Mayor and City Council. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for opening up these opportunities for a small business owner like Elite Taxi to be able to provide services to the Human Services Department in the early childhood program. Loretta Calderon is one of the only female-owned taxi cab companies in town. She's been around about 7 years and really built a wonderful enterprise, and is very proud to be able to come in and provide services to the city of Phoenix for the 300 families and their children for the early Head Start. So we simply just wanted to express our appreciation for the City Council and for the opportunity to have a small business enterprise come in and participate with the City of Phoenix.
Very much, Mr. Gerwal. And I think the contract will be to provide transportation services to families going to and from Head Start.
That is correct.
That's great. Okay. All right. Any additional questions by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gates. Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego. Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is item number 42. Item number 42 is a proposed amendment to Phoenix City Code regarding commercial ground transportation at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. Would the city clerk please read the title? Did you want to do this one?
Item 42, Ordinance G6164, an ordinance relating to commercial ground transportation at Phoenix airports, amending Phoenix City Code Chapter 4, Article 1, Section 4-1, and Article 3, Section 4-51, changing the term handicapped to disabled, amending Article 4, Sections 4-67 through 4-78, and Sections 4-80 through 4-86, relating to accessible transportation, driver background checks, ground transportation, motor vehicle trip tracking, demand-based trip fees, provider permitting, violations and enforcement, transferring and renumbering, and making conforming and clarifying changes as necessary.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion on 42?
Move approval of item 42.
Second.
We have a motion. There is a second. Councilman Pastor,
I have a substitute motion.
please.
The substitute motion is, I heard the staff, I heard people in the parking industry, and we've had a number of conversations in between the time that we voted, and so it was very important for me to listen and understand the dynamics that was happening. And so I have a different substitute motion, and I move to amend the proposed ordinance to include staff's alternative implementation strategy identified by Mr. Bennett's May 18th, 2016 memo.
Second. All right, so we have a substitute motion. We have a second on the substitute motion. Maybe I'll ask Mr. Paul Blue or Mr. Bennett real quick, just briefly, so for the benefit of the public, the differences between the substitute motion and the original motion.
Mayor and Council, I'm Chad Makowski, Assistant Aviation Director, and we just have a quick presentation to highlight the detail of the memo that we drafted
I think for the
on
benefit
May
of the public would be helpful.
Okay, the first, we've identified three major amendments to the city ordinance as proposed. The first is specific to fees. And as you'll see on this slide, the original fee structure that was approved by City Council at the March 1st policy meeting approved a phasing of the rates over a 3-year period. Fees started for incumbent operators on January 1st, 2017, and were phased into the full fee of $4, $6, and $11 respectively by 2019. New operators would start at the 2019 rate under the March 1st proposal. After additional discussion with some members of the commercial ground transportation industry who were concerned about the fees, we have agreed to propose the following alternate fee schedule for your consideration. We created a new lower tier of fees for 2017, and in 2018, we are proposing the fees that were originally proposed for 2017. You'll note that the 2018 fees under the alternative recommendation are the same as the 2017 fees under the original fee schedule. In 2019, we are proposing the fees that were originally proposed in 2018, and the new operators would now start at the new alternative 2019 fee rate. The second change relates to an annual review or true-up of the previous year's actual ground transportation fees revenue versus estimated revenue. This review would be conducted in January of 2018 and January of 2019. And so by way of example, in January of 2018, the Aviation Department will conduct a review of actual trip fee revenue that we received in 2017 under this new fee structure, and we'll compare it to the estimated revenue or our projected revenue of just over $7 million, as you see there for 2017. If the actual revenue is less than the estimated revenue, then the Aviation Department will implement the 2018 rates as scheduled on the previous slide. If, however, 2017 actual trip fee revenues are more than our estimated revenues, the Aviation Department will consider 2017 actual trips and will proportionately reduce the trip fee rates for all operators to more closely achieve the 2018 estimated target revenue. This process is important to this community because it adds additional certainty to all ground transportation operators should trip projections significantly change over this 3-year period. And the last of the three changes that we're proposing in the May 18th memo is that the Aviation Department will conduct a national study of ground transportation fees at airports comparable to Sky Harbor, as well as expenses at Sky Harbor attributable to ground transportation. The review will include at minimum a review of the top 20 airports as well as other comparable airports. The Aviation Department will conduct the study no later than January 1st, 2020, and will support industry participation in the selection of the consultants as well as the study process. And that concludes the changes we've recommended in the May 18th memo, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much for that overview. I'll now turn to members of the public who have submitted cards to speak. Let's see, Timothy Lasota, you're on top of my pile in opposition. I'm not sure. The motion that's on the table is the substitute motion made by Councilwoman Pastor, representing me, put the screen back to the previous one with the fees up there, but representing a revised alternative recommendation. That's what's on the table. But if you oppose that or the original recommendation, I'll certainly take testimony on that. Or if you support the original motion and not the substitute motion, we'll certainly take testimony on that as well. Mr. Lasota.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I don't know what I did to get called first, but thank you for that also. I did want to come up and address an issue I've discussed with staff, and I think they've resolved it to my satisfaction at least. And the issue is essentially, and I represent VIP Taxi, and the issue for us is prearranged transportation at the airport. We use an app. We've had the app actually since before some of the larger transportation network companies. But at any rate, our position is simply that we ought to be able to use the app to do prearranged transportation services, whether we are a taxi or whether we are a TNC or whatever we are. We're obviously permitted by the state of Arizona, and we should not have to go to the aviation department for an actual competitive contract to do that. And staff has assured me, and they said maybe they could even chime in, so it could be on the record, that that is indeed the case. So that is the extent of my comments.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Lasota, and I want to make sure from our professional staff, has he accurately represented conversations that have occurred?
Mayor, we'll have Mr. Makovsky answer that question.
Mayor and Council, that is an accurate representation of the discussion we had. The discussion relates to recent state law that passed regarding taxis and TNCs and how those regulations work, and whether these vehicles would have to permit both as a taxi or a TNC or vice versa. Our requirement is that, of course, they can always comply with state law, but with that aside, they would be able to permit as a TNC with the airport and do prearranged pickups.
All right, thank you very much. Next speaker will be Michael Sigler. Did you wish to provide testimony on this item? You marked your card as opposed, followed by Jeffrey Golden. All right. Please state your name for the record and up to 2 minutes of testimony.
Okay, my name is Michael Sigler. I have spent the majority of the past 30 years in ground and air transportation and risk management. I am for competition. I am for transportation network companies. As the attorney had just mentioned in his client, my clients also have the same interest in mind. We want to be able to make sure that if you have a personal cab driver you would like to call, or you trust somebody that you want to have who's licensed and has the proper credentials, has the proper insurance, to be able to make sure that that taxi can actually pick up prearranged through their app or prearranged at the airport. And that is good news, and that is something that I'm glad to hear they're going to do. The second one is the dirty little truth, and it's about background checks. I'm going to mention a website, who'sdrivingyou.org. Many of you may have heard of that. If you haven't, take a look at it. There are over 1,000 incidences of, I'll use the dirty word, Uber, which has lists anything from Uber driver burglarizes the home, or Uber driver picks up passenger, goes back to their home and breaks into their house, rapes a girl in Scottsdale back in February. I'm not going to read all these. Bottom line, it's all out there, it's public record, but they're against background checks. They're against a real comprehensive background check. They asked 3 of the officers out in the hall before we started today, if they arrest somebody, what's the first thing they're going to do when they bring them down to the city of Phoenix, down to the jail? They're going to fingerprint them. Because they want to absolutely, without a biometric scan or DNA, the next best way to prove a person's identity is with their fingerprints. This is common sense. A comprehensive background check, including fingerprints, open warrant service check, verification of address, verification of MVR, like many of the taxi companies, actually all of them are doing right now. It reminds me of the kid who moves into the neighborhood and brings his ball and wants to change all the rules and says, I want to play, but if you don't play by my rules, I'm going to run home and bring the ball. The city of Austin, Texas was not bullied. Philadelphia is not going to be either. Several countries like Germany and India have had the foresight to say we're not going to be bullied. The bottom line is this. I hope you have the passion, vision, and the willingness to do the right thing. The decision that you make and the way you vote on this speaks volumes. The decision to require a comprehensive background check with fingerprints for all ground transportation drivers is a celebration of logic and good sense.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Sigler. On that, I assume the folks were standing in support of that comments. Please sit down at this point because there's people behind you who want to be able to view the meeting as well. Jeffrey Golden, you should write testimony on this item.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm a small business owner, a former high school teacher and coach. I have a company that does transportation, and probably 75% of our calls go in and out of the airport. We've been in business since 1995, properly vetted. All of our drivers who drive with us have gone through background checks through the city, fingerprinting. We have the proper insurance, which is expensive, but it's the proper insurance. So God forbid if something happens, the clients are taken care of. They're covered. Elite Taxi was just given a nice, wonderful plaque and so on and so forth. I guarantee that every one of their drivers will have gone through a proper background check. Why do we want to do this? Because the background checks that are being done by the TNCs, most of the TNCs, are like Swiss cheese. There's a bunch of holes in it. There are reports all over the United States, news departments in San Francisco, LA, San Diego, in Texas are now finding that there are murderers, people wanted for murder, pedophiles, and so on, sexual deviants and so on and so forth that have gone through the background check that was set up through Uber only to be able to get their Uber license and be able to compete on the street. All we're asking for is to make the environment safe for all people that live in Arizona, all people that assume the fact when they get into a vehicle that the driver has already been vetted and can act in a most responsible way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Golden. Mr. Fernando Moore, did you wish to provide testimony on this item?
My English is not very well. I a small company, taxi cab, opened last 3 months before working for different company in Arizona. And I have here in Craigslist different guy from Uber, propone drivers, so no check it out background. We know a few guys for different companies having big accident in Arizona. License is revoked right now, driving in Uber, right now. In downtown Phoenix, guy driving SUV because my wife having the SUV in his name, she opened the contract with Uber and passed the lease for $325 here, right now in Craigslist. That's the driver from Uber's. Passed the contract for $325. So no check it out background, no driver license check it out, no criminal, nothing, and people driving right now. We pay commercial insurance, around the $400 at $500 every month. For open company, we want proof maintenance in the car. We want proof background check, through text right now, rule change. We do a few tax prior federal right now, it's mandatory. So I think when I come into this country, I'm from Cuba, this country is the just. It's a country that equal. And I find it, for working in this state, different than Uber because I see the same opportunity for work. Why I want to do is follow the rules, and some people not follow the rules for working. And the same job, transportation people, every day. And that's my question. Why taxi cabs? Some people say, because Uber. Okay, I removed my name, King Cab. I put an Uber in my cab, so I no one pay commercial insurance. I no one go to DOT. Right now, Western Missouri disappear.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Your 2 minutes are up. We need 2 minutes for each speaker. Thank you so much for providing that testimony. Joe Gwynn, I believe, did you provide testimony? Followed by Maribel Holguin Waters, if you wish to provide testimony.
Good afternoon, Council. On the issue of background checks, this country has a gold standard in the form of an ID check, and that is in the way of a fingerprint. Anybody can sit at a computer and enter any information that they want. Mr. Mayor, I could put your information. I guarantee you I could find enough information to pass Uber's background check, assuming you're okay. Okay. I could enter your information and get approved for you, and then I can go around and start driving as I'm Greg Stanton, Uber driver. The fingerprint is by far the only secure background check. We've seen it in Austin, we've seen it in Houston, we're seeing it in Philadelphia. Phoenix was a little behind on jumping on allowing alternative taxis. Learn from the mistakes in other cities. And if you don't want to do it yourself, put it to a vote. It's what Austin did. And the people in Austin overwhelmingly supported the fingerprint tricks when people land in the city of Austin. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gwynn. Maribel Holguin Waters, did you provide testimony? You still here? She was opposed to the item, I'm assuming on the same basis on the issue of background checks. Raul Renteria, did you provide testimony? How about Keith Clifton? Please come forward. And then after Mr. Clifton is Jeff Conley, if you wish to provide testimony.
Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. I wrote a statement so I could get through it quickly. I'd be amiss if I didn't mention the betrayal I feel for my industry by most of our local and state legislators by allowing black market for hire vehicle companies, also known as TNCs, to not only illegally operate but lobby themselves into legitimacy without consequence. At the same time, those who follow the letter of the law lose more and more market share every year. In 2005, the for-hire vehicle laws were rewritten by the taxi lobby, and they in turn misinformed the state for their own benefit. The new laws were passed. I happened to be president of the Arizona Limousine Association at that time, and within a year we were able to inform the state of the wrongdoing and have the laws rewritten for a fair playing field for the whole. It encompassed all vehicles for hire entities, which TNCs most certainly fell into. The smoke and mirror tactics of the so-called TNCs is beyond ridiculous. With very little effort of educating oneself, it's easy to see they're selling vehicles for hire. As for innovation, our industry has utilized online networks for the previous decade. They were the first to go to mass market and use them illegally. It's time to get back to a fair and level playing field. Up until now, the transportation industry has been the face of small business. So why is our state allowing a greedy few to dictate the law for the whole, while the majority of the law-abiding, voting, local small businesses watch our market be diminished? With that said, here we are. Now the city and state is allowing private vehicles for hire with part-time teenage drivers to do commercial business at Sky Harbor, arguably one of the most dangerous places to drive in the state. At the same time, putting aside fingerprinting for them, which has been the standard for the past 15 years, and then claiming that public safety is the #1 concern. Our industry has been mostly self-regulated for many years, and we have always had a minimum age bracket of 23 to 25 because the 19 to 23-year-old age bracket is at too high a risk for our industry. I implore you, do not pass the new regulations as is. You must not allow anyone under the age of 23 to do commercial passenger transportation at the airport or in the state if consumer safety is truly such a concern. Enforce fingerprinting so we know who is really behind the wheel, and stop the insanity before someone else is seriously injured or killed, and before the state and taxpayers are held liable for these absurd allowances. I have made copies if anybody likes it.
All right, thank you very much. Maybe the city clerk can grab that information so the council can have a chance to review it. Thank you, Mr. Clifton. How about Mr. Jeff Conley? You should provide testimony on this item, followed by Douglas Hume.
Thanks, Master May and the council. I've been in the business 25 years and hired over 1,000 drivers and never once had a driver arrested for rape, sexual assault, kidnapping, or murder. Pretty good odds. I find it offensive that the Phoenix Airport, with approval from the Phoenix City Council, have curb space dedicated to TNCs that their drivers have not been fingerprint, like everybody else who works at the airport. I mean everybody from the aviation director to the janitor. Question, will there be signage telling the public that the space for drivers at the airport may have not been background checked? We have 350 Arizona-based companies that have been following the rules since 9/11 at the airport and employ 4,000 tax-paying employees. Uber, for example, owns 0 vehicles, employs less than 50 people, and based on articles from Fortune, Forbes magazine pays little, if any, taxes. So just to wrap it up, the City Council wants to approve a measure to allow TNCs to operate the Phoenix Airport without its drivers being fingerprinted. All this for a California-based company that pays little, if any, taxes at all. Am I missing something? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Conley. Douglas Hume, do you provide testimony? Please come forward, followed by Steve Kaplan.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Douglas Hume. I've been in the taxi and transportation industry 15 years. Was trained with many different companies. I've worked with many different companies. I'm here today basically to say, regardless of what companies are curbside at Sky Harbor, our first priority should be the safety of the Sky Harbor patrons and the general public. The majority of the laws that are changed to allow TNCs curbside are done in the face of the safety of them. No fingerprints, no background checks, lowering the insurance minimums, and changing the existing system to accommodate to accommodate any company that wishes to exist and participate in Sky Harbor should bring up their standards to the current standards rather than lowering them, which will allow for a big potential of problems that are associated with the lower standards, such as has been previously mentioned. And this is like lowering a basketball rim to 8 feet so that everyone else can dunk because they want to. It's set at a level so that it's safe, so it's normal, so it makes the standard. Instead of changing it to allow someone in, they should want to be able to be the same standard as everyone else. Alongside with that, Uber doesn't have any set rates, and when there's surge pricing, the customers at Sky Harbor will be harmed if there is a 2-hour flight delay or something. They'll come in, Uber doesn't set their prices. The drivers do, and just like New Year's Eve and Super Bowl, the prices spiked 8 and 10 times the regular rates, with people getting egregiously overcharged for a fare which would have been standardized, printed on the side of a cap. So I just beg that you guys hear us out today and understand that we don't mind Uber as a company in as much if they were to play on the same playing field we were. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Hume, for your testimony. Is Steve Kaplan here? Thank you, and then followed by Mr. David Faraji.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. We've observed and observed the evolving of this TNC business, and certainly I'm not here today to discuss the pros and cons of TNCs being in our state. I think they themselves will send those messages out to you as things progress. I don't want to be redundant, but Austin certainly has stood up to be and spoken about their dissatisfaction with the fact that drivers are not fingerprinted. Houston no longer permits them to operate, and I think you're going to see other major cities like Boston and Philadelphia, et cetera, come to the same conclusion. But I'm looking for a level playing field. What I'm disappointed in is the lowering of the insurance coverage to accommodate TNCs. We have been held to a higher standard for many, many years and always produced and had to present higher insurance coverage. The other concern that I have is the ease of fingerprinting and background checks. That too has been, the height bar has been lowered, and that's going to have a negative effect. One thing that I mentioned at the Aviation Advisory Board meeting that caught a little bit of attention, but has never been addressed since, was the federal motor carriers. And all our drivers, and I must say I apologize for not introducing myself more formally, I'm president of the Arizona Limousine Association and also very well connected with the National Limousine Association. We represent over 2,500 transportation companies and thousands of employees. In our company here in this city, there is not a driver that's allowed on our staff that doesn't meet the fingerprint and background check as set up by the airport. But further to that, they all must carry a medical card. The med card makes a statement that they are in the proper condition to operate a vehicle, commercial vehicle. And for the sake of wrapping up, I ask that you review and give consideration to making sure that the playing field is level. No one has given us the opportunity to be provided parking curbs. I don't know where that came about, but I sure would like to have one. We're allowed about 3 to 5 minutes in prearranged parking and chased away if we sit there too long. So with that, I also want to say that I support the friendliest airport, but all those fees that are going to be coming about, and we understand fees are important, they're all going to be passed along to the arriving passengers. We cannot afford to absorb the type of fees that are being proposed. Well, with that, I thank you for your time and
Thank you very much,
appreciate
Mr.
it.
Kevin. Mr. Faraji, do you wish to provide testimony on this item? Up to 2 minutes, please.
I have some paper.
Could the city clerk please get the paperwork?
Thank you very much. I have 15, and please give one to Grand Transportation. Okay, my name is David Faraji, and I want, thank you very much, Mayor and Council. I want to talk regarding of the trip fee for June 4, 2016, and for January 1st, 2017. Please see my calculation in Excel sheet with the Grand Transportation data regarding of the annual capital OM expense they show to you. They say $10 million around, and their expense is $6,318,000, and they are losing $3,700,000, something like that. And with the money with this formula that you are collecting from the driver or the customer, no different, you are collecting this money. If you go to your document that you have 3,500 vehicles, if you multi one trip a day and $2.75 per trip, and will be 365, will be $3,000,075, only one trip a day. If you go 7 trips, will be $24 million. If we calculate it to $2.75, and if you go more like $4 or $3, 2.5, or any extra like a van service, something. This is my question from the Grand Transportation. How you calculate this data and bring it in, you need 3,700,000, but with this plan that you are collecting 5 to 10 times of these, and will be maybe more than $40 million or $80 million. Depend of the Uber welcome to the airport with the a small car, and any trip you want, charge them $3. And we heard that tomorrow there is a city advisory board regarding of the taxi that next year you won't charge $4 per trip. And I need the answer. Please don't pass me anywhere. We need this answer for the driver and the customer.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Maybe staff can get with the gentleman afterwards. But in general, if they've misestimated, I think what Councilman Pastor's motion does is say that the fee will be downwardly adjusted to account for the charges beyond what was estimated in the calculation.
Mayor, that's correct.
All right, thank you very much for your testimony. Not wishing to speak, but opposed to the item as well, Hector Contreras and Evan Koch. How about John DePipa? Did you wish to provide testimony on this item? How about Amir Ayoun? Did you Asin? Thank you so much. You're neutral on the item, but you wish to provide testimony. You have up to 2 minutes to do so. Oh, I apologize. You are here. Okay, good. You're Mr. DePipa? DePipa? All right, go ahead and go first, and then Mr. Asim will go next. Thank you.
You were close with the name, but it's okay. All right, folks. Hi, and welcome, Mayor and City Council. My name is John DePipa, and I'm a Southwest Airlines flight attendant and an executive board member for TW Local 556, and I represent about 1,400 flight attendants who call Phoenix home. I am here about the proposed ground transportation policy and have had several productive discussions with Councilman Valenzuela and Councilwoman Pastor's chiefs of staff. I also had a meeting yesterday with Assistant Aviation Director Mikowski and Aviation Director Bennett, and present at the meeting was Rebecca Friend and Michael Broadhead, who is co-chair of Pride at Work Arizona. While everything seemed to be going in the right direction, there was a comment that was made that kind of caused me a little concern. So I'm still opposed to this, as I fear that even if the off-site parking vendors will benefit, I fear that whatever originally proposed rates will be passed on to the people I represent in the terms of higher monthly parking fees. As it was even said yesterday that the airport is not breaking even at the 44th Street employee lot, which we park at, and we charge $60 a month. We pay $60 a month there, which is the highest rate of all of our 10 domiciles. So just to give you an idea of our 10 domiciles, like I said, the monthly rate is $60, and that's the highest rate of all 10 of our domiciles. We fly out of Chicago as a domicile, Oakland, Atlanta, Houston, Dallas, Baltimore, Orlando, Denver, and Las Vegas. And as I said, we pay for our own parking, and Phoenix is the highest rate of all 10 of our domiciles. So I do fear that that rate is going to increase, as it was said that they are not breaking even at the employee parking lot. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Amir Aveen?
Mayor, councils, thank you for your time. My name is Amir Azin, and I'm representing USA Drivers Association today as the president. I got a couple comments, a couple questions, and one suggestion. So I'm very surprised that majority of the audience, they're not educated enough about the transportation network companies that they pick up at the airport. They go through more background checks than anyone else. So we do the Uber background check, and we do the airport background check. We have the commercial insurance, we have the Arizona Made and Measured decal, we get the medical card, we go through the safety defensive driving, all the A, B, C to Z. So it's going to surprise me if people come here and talk about that we do not meet the requirement. With that being said, I got a question for the staff, ground transportation staff. So under vehicle identification options, when it says aviation issued vehicle decal, is that the quarterly stickers?
Staff to answer.
And Mayor and members of council, so we have, under this new proposal, two options that are available. One would be approved trade dress, where they would have logos or identification on the vehicle that would be approved by the department, or they would be issued a vehicle identification sticker. And so some, for example, black cars don't want to have the big logos on their vehicles, and we can offer them as that as an alternative. It would not be issued on a quarterly basis. Instead, it would be issued, I believe it's on an annual basis in accordance with the vehicle inspection processes.
And is there any charge for that?
There would be no charge for that sticker.
Okay.
That
Great, because some of us, they get calls from 7 different resources, so we can have 7 decals. That's good. So on the GPS technology vehicle tracking, my question is if, let's say, I get calls on the transportation network company that they operate under the GPS system, and then also I have my own personal customers. How would that get tracked through the two sources? Again, question for staff.
We'll ask staff to answer that question, and I think we are running low on time, so I think this will be your last question. Thank you.
I think we need a little bit of clarity about what the question is. It sounds like you have a custom app or something of that nature?
No. Let's say I get calls from TNC, TNC companies, and then also I have my own personal customers. So I paid the trip fee through the GPS system of TNC, And then also, let's say the 5 times that I came to the airport under the, pick up my own personal clients, how would you track that? Is that through the aviation track scanning system?
So Mayor and Council, under this scenario, for example, some drivers do operate with Uber at a higher level, like the Uber XL, Uber Sedan, as well as provide their own black car services and what have you on a prearranged basis. In that instance, Uber has indicated that that would not be a TNC-based operation in the sense that they will not self-report those trips to us. So in those situations, that driver would be required to carry the ABI tag that we have, and every time they pick up at the airport, they would be charged in accordance with the ABI read.
So how would you separate the time I pick up to the Uber and my personal client? Because the aviation tag is going to be readed.
Mayor, we'd be happy to address these questions with the speaker after the session if you'd like.
Wonderful. Thank you for your testimony.
All right.
Next, Steve Thompson from Uber, did you provide testimony today? Followed by Laura Bisesto representing Lyft. In favor? Mr. Thompson, good to see you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Steve Thompson. I'm general manager for Uber operations here in Arizona. Just wanted to express my thanks and gratitude of working with the staff over the last year in dozens of meetings to come to this agreement. We're in support of the ordinance in place.
Thank you so very much. Laura Bisesto representing Lyft, did you provide testimony?
Good afternoon, Mayor Stanton and council members. My name is Laura Bisesto, and I'm the Government Relations Manager at Lyft. I'm here today on behalf of Lyft to express our strong support for Ordinance G6164 to amend the ground transportation provisions at Phoenix Sky Harbor. We'd also like to thank the staff at Sky Harbor for their hard work and continuous outreach to dozens of stakeholders throughout the ground transportation overhaul process. And we look forward to continuing to work with Sky Harbor and bringing the tens of thousands of passengers who travel through Sky Harbor Airport every day a safe, affordable, and convenient way to get to and from the airport. We ask for your yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Abbas Naney, did you provide testimony on this item? I passed. That passed, but you're in favor of the proposal?
Actually, yeah.
You in favor or you're opposed?
Take that off.
Take that off, okay. Not wish to speak, but in favor, John Walsh, Dave Warren, Mr. Chuck Coughlin, Sarah Fisher from the parking spot, and Al Pasley as well. I have no other cards on this item. Is anyone else here in the audience wishing to speak on this item? Okay. Oh, sir, please come forward. You have state your name. You have 2 minutes.
My name is Evan Keck. I did fill out one of the white cards. I was wondering if I could take my time and assign it to Mr. Azim.
Is Mr. Azim here? Did you have a card? Oh, did you? No, he's already provided his testimony. I think staff's gonna. We have a busy agenda, and he had a full and fair opportunity to present his side of it.
Okay. I just wanted to point out that Phoenix Sky Harbor puts all drivers through a fingerprint check. There's a lot of misconception put through here before. And also, drivers have no control over Uber fare, and Sky Harbor fares are not subject to surge fare. So all of that was incorrect. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Okay, I have no other cards. Ma'am, did you wish to speak? You may. Please come forward, state your name. After you're done, please fill out a card so we have it for the record. Good to see you.
Yes, my name is Judith Kokali. I'm an independent cab driver in Scottsdale and Phoenix. The issue with the Ubers for me is they're not insured. 90% of them are not insured. My understanding of the law is that they're supposed to have commercial insurance now. And if you have commercial insurance, you would have a commercial plate, you would have a weights and measures sticker on your vehicle, you would essentially be a livery. And so when they go to buy insurance, most of the insurance companies now ask them, do you drive for Uber? Because so many people do. And if they say no, they're lying. So now their insurance is null and void because they lied on the insurance policy. I think we all know that. So when people get into these vehicles and they assume that they're insured, what happens when there's a wreck and they're not insured? Does that fall on the state? I would think so. I would sue the state if I was in that position because they allowed it to happen. They're allowing it to go on. The police officers are not enforcing it, and I don't blame them because I've had a few of them actually tell me that they've been told from their higher ups to leave Uber alone, let them do whatever they want. I don't understand that. It's not right, it's not fair, and it's mostly not fair to the customers because they don't understand that they're not insured, that these people don't have fingerprint checks, that these people don't have background checks, these people don't have drug tests. It's not right for them to be driving the public around. The public's not aware of that. People come from out of town, they assume that all these things are done. They're not. Makes us look bad. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. All right, there are no other cards or people wishing to speak on this item. I'll now turn to members of the council. Are there any, we have the motion and a second. Are there any comments or questions? Councilor Nowakowski, please.
So, Paul, what is our state policy on background checks for transportation? Is there any?
Councilman Nowakowski, I'm going to ask Chad Makowski to respond to the state requirements for background checks.
Thank you. And Mayor and Council, Councilmember Nowakowski, the state requirement for transportation network companies under House Bill 2135 that was passed a little over a year ago requires a name-based background check that covers a number of different areas, and I'll highlight a couple of the areas that may be of interest to you. It looks for moving violations, major moving violations, a number of convictions over the preceding 7 years related to sex offenses, robbery, fraud, organized crime, drugs, sexual offenses. They cannot be listed on the National Sex Offender Registry database. They must possess a valid driver's license, valid registration, proof of financial responsibility, and there's an age requirement as well. And that's just some of the highlights.
All right, other questions? Councilman DeCiccio, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things. One, I'm going to be voting against this. If the city of Phoenix finds a successful business, they will find a way to tax it and kill it. That's essentially what's occurring here. This is a $7 million tax. Make no mistake about it. This is a $7 million tax on the public. So I'm going to break this up in just a couple categories if I could. One, when you're dealing with the transportation companies, or not the transport, but the parking facilities that deal with the flight attendants, I think whoever was here from Southwest Airlines, you're right on game. What's going to end up happening is your flight attendants are ending up, the ones that make maybe $20,000 a year can least afford it. The reason they park off-site is because the city of Phoenix is so insanely expensive that they charge less money. So what the city of Phoenix is doing here is in order to bring up competition, so they don't like the competition, so what they do is they rise and put a tax on those private individuals, which is going to be a tax on the flight attendants and others that use these off-site parking. That's what's occurring here. They can come up with all the justification, but I just want you to think about what's really happening here. Think about this, and this is for our viewing public. You park off-site, off the airport, the city of Phoenix wants to tax you for doing that, just because somebody's going to drop you off at the airport. Now think of the insanity of that. The second part of it deals with the Uber Lyft taxi issue. I got called in at the very end on that to help with the negotiations at the state, and I see some of the people here. The issue dealing with the background checks, I believe we addressed some of that. I think everybody should be treated exactly the same. That doesn't mean you're going to impose more restrictions on people. If anything, you bring it down to the level where it is. I mean, a transportation company is a transportation company. That's what it is. I mean, if you're picking people up and dropping them off, the question I've got is, why should the tax-paying public, the hard-working taxpayer, have to pay because they make a decision whether they take a taxi or whether they take Uber, whether they take Lyft, to pay to get dropped off at the airport? We want to encourage that, don't we? We want to encourage carpooling. This creates a disincentive for that. The other part of it deals when you look at, if you want to look at what's going to be happening in the future, this is the future of transportation right here. This is it. And it's going to be driverless cars. So a lot of this debate that's occurring right now, the way we live, the way we work, the way we do anything, and if you look at our homes right now, they have garages. 20, 30 years from now, they're going to be tons of driverless cars out there. It's going to be a lot cheaper for most of us just to be able to pick up our phone, if it's a phone back then. In the future, who knows what it's going to look like. Dial it in. We're going to have somebody pick us up. We won't even need garages in our homes. We're just not going to need them. It's going to change the way we work, the way we live, the way we play. Everything's going to be changed. It's what's happening at this speed. So at the end of the day, it's ridiculous to have two sets of rules. They're transportation companies, and it's insane for us to be taxing the public that wants to be able to get just dropped off at an airport. I'm going to be voting against this. I think it's ridiculous that the city of Phoenix has even embarked on this, and I don't think it's fair to the tax-paying public and those who want to be able to use the service. Thank you, Mayor.
I thank you, Councilman DeCiccio. All right, other comments or questions by members of the council? Councilman Williams, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Chad, you and I had many conversations in the last year on fingerprinting, and I know that I am a firm believer that that should happen. I also understand that the state has stepped in, and that's not an option for us at this time. If we were to go to the legislature next year and get that change, could we then revise this and require it?
Mayor and Councilwoman Williams, yes, if the state does change law in that regard, we would be happy to present a modification to the ordinance that would reflect those changes and that would implement the fingerprint requirement.
Yeah, because I think most of the public believes everybody's been fingerprinted, because that's always been the practice. And I'm very concerned about those who aren't. But I also understand that we have to come up with a system. And I believe, Mr. Bennett, you have told me that this is very similar to that's in other major airports, and this is necessary to continue to operate. There's costs associated with ground transportation, I understand. Could you explain a little bit about that?
Mayor, to Councilwoman Williams, that is correct. We, as part of this review process, we looked at the top 20 major airports around the United States. In fact, Phoenix is the only major airport that doesn't have some type of demand-based transportation policy in place. In addition to that, you know, as we noted in our March testimony, Sky Harbor is a self-sustaining enterprise fund, and we have to maintain all of our facilities based on the amount of revenue that we raise from various user fees. And so in our ground transportation center, we are not at a break-even point, and through the implementation of this policy over time, we hope to be able to achieve a break-even point in our ground transportation center.
And I mean, people think, well, you just drive up, drop off, or pick up. What could possibly cost money? Could you give us a couple examples?
Well, Mayor, Councilwoman Williams, we have well over $30 million annually associated with maintaining the roadway systems and the infrastructure at Sky Harbor. Most people don't recognize that the roadways at Sky Harbor are not public roads in the sense they're not maintained by taxpayer revenue. They're only maintained by the funds generated at Sky Harbor. And we attribute about $10 million of those costs directly to the commercial ground transportation providers and industry, which is the point of this discussion today on this ordinance.
Well, Mayor, I will say that although I hope that we can go to the legislature and get the requirements changed so that fingerprinting is necessary, I am going to go ahead and support this today.
Okay, excellent. Other, Councilman Warren, please.
Thank you. So maybe a year or two ago, city increased the parking rates. Last summer, increased the sales tax rates. This spring, increased the water rates. Yesterday, effectively raised the property tax. And today is raising the cost of doing business at the airport or taking someone to the airport. The trend is not our friend. We talk a lot about economic development and being positive this and pro that, but it just seems like it keeps taking more and more money to do business in Phoenix. You know, before Mr. Bennett's tenure at the airport, it seemed like every time I got one of these pamphlets or books for our council meetings, there was the airport paying for new memberships, $11,000 for coasters, $4.9 million for a piece of property that the seller had purchased, I think it was 11 months prior, maybe 9 months prior, for $1.5 million. It was absurd. So with this trend, I'd like to see Uber and Lyft at the airport, but I have to say, with this trend of the city just making a money grab in every possible way they can from residents and taxpayers, and with the history of what I saw at the airport when I first came on this council, again, before Mr. Bennett's tenure, there's no way I'm going to support this. So I'm going to vote no. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Any other comments or questions by members of the council? All right, so I have a motion, a substitute motion. We have a second on the substitute motion. Roll call.
DeCiccio. No. Gates.
No.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Yes. Waring. No. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the motion passes on a 6-3 vote. Next item on our agenda is item number
48.
48.
Move approval of item 48.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments or questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio. No. Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor. Valenzuela. Yes. Waring. Yes. Williams.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that passed on 8-1 vote. Next item is item number 56. We have a motion on 56.
Move approval of item 56, first transit contract.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? All right, I'll second the motion. You have any cards on the items? Comments or questions by members of the council?
Mayor?
Please, Councilman.
I want to make a couple comments on this because I have been very upset that the city has played the union's game. And this is the second time I've been aware of this in over, and really less than a year. We knew in August what the game plan was. It was to strike at the Super Bowl. And we let it happen. We waited until the last minute, until they had their thumb right smack on top of us. And we had no choice because there couldn't be replacement drivers. So, yes, we had to go negotiate, and they won. I am very, very upset about this. I understand that I'm going to support this today, but I will tell you, if you don't put a group together that starts this summer to look at how you're going to address so we do not face that next year when our sporting events happen, shame, shame on you, and I will not support anything else. You gave your word on this. The city's word has to be good, but I am not happy.
Are there very much other comments or questions? Member of the council, Councilman DeCiccio, please.
I want to ask staff, I've asked for documentation to show where you've informed the council of this, or anybody on the council. I got one letter that basically said it was back in January 2015. That was the last time that there was anything out there, and all that said was, we found a way to strike a deal, we're going to get back with you. Nothing occurred after that. Do you have any records of anybody that you've informed about this? I mean, for me, it looks like a backroom, well, actually, it is a backroom deal that was struck with the unions. That's essentially what this is. It's a deal that was struck, it was contrary to the taxpayers, and it is a total giveaway to the unions. So show me any documentation where you've informed myself, other members of the council, just documentation, and letting the public know that this was coming down. And from what I understand, you've known for a year and a half. What documents do you have?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, you did refer to one email that was found from Rick Neymark. I would, though, say this was not a backroom deal. This was part of a mediated settlement that was administered by Judge Ruth McGregor as part of the arrangement between the company and the union. The city arranged for Judge McGregor to be part of that, and this was a component of that mediated settlement that was signed by both parties. And so we're here today now that they've had a year for that, and they can explain that, to amend the contract to settle that. The settlement cost less than the cost that would have been to continue to provide bus service during a strike during that important time of the Super Bowl.
Ed, with all due respect, I respect you on that, But the bottom line is that's where all the lies happen here at the City of Phoenix, when we use language like it would be a lot cheaper to do that. This council was never informed of that. This was a total backroom deal that was struck. We were never informed of what this was until we saw until staff met with my staff on Friday. So it is what it is. And these are the kind of deals that get the public upset. These are the kind of deals that hurt the public because these are their monies. That's their money, not the people up here. It's the money of the public. So I'm asking for a simple documentation when the council was informed. When were we told? When was the public told of this? Staff knew this was going on. They knew it. And they refused to tell us. It was a year and a half later, never told us anything. Nothing.
Mayor, members of the council, I can
Mr.
provide a little bit.
Paniagua, our Deputy City Manager, please.
If I can just give a little bit more information about the timing, what was involved. Just before I do, and Maria can explain a little bit further, but I do want to give a little bit of context about what's going on with this item. If we go back about 14 months, there was the possibility of a bus strike because of the negotiations between First Transit and the Amalgamated Transit Union, the bus drivers at that time. So this, as we painfully know, a bus strike has a huge impact on riders in the city of Phoenix who need to get to work, need to get to school, need to get around and rely on the bus. We also know that at that time, the city was at the peak of preparation for the Super Bowl and for the Pro Bowl. And so as we looked at the costs to address the additional service that was going to be needed during that time, the cost was going to be about $2 million over a 10-day span that covered the Super Bowl and the Pro Bowl. So what was negotiated, as the city manager mentioned, Chief Justice Ruth McGregor was involved in mediating those negotiations, was a settlement that involved coming and requesting a change to the contract for First Transit that increased the employee benefits. And so that was the agreement at the time. That was the email that was sent to the mayor and to the city council from the city manager's office at that time, explaining that, in general terms, that agreement had been reached and that staff would be coming back to the city council for that amendment to the contract. That's what we're doing now. It has been 14 months, and that's a long time. That's unusual for it to take that long, and I recognize that. But there's a reason for that. The reason for that is that the benefits that changed were medical benefits. First Transit had to go through their annual open enrollment period that they do every year for their medical benefits to verify and validate that those were going to be the costs. Once they did that, that happened at the end of 2015, they submitted those costs to the city of Phoenix in early 2016. Once they did that, we then did our own due diligence to review all of those numbers and validate all of those numbers, make sure they comply with the Federal Transit Administration requirements. Once that occurred, we then brought that forward to the city council, and that's what we're talking about today at this public meeting, and the documents are very public because they're on the council agenda. So before this time, we did not have the information to bring to the council that had not been verified and validated. The information that was known at the time that email was sent was what was provided.
Mayor, just a continuing follow-up question.
Councilman, continue.
Yeah. At the bottom line is, at some point, somebody knew that it was going to cost taxpayers money. Somebody knew that and had an obligation to tell the public, tell us, say, hey, it's going to cost us some money. We're doing this evaluation. Who made the decision to agree to do this deal? Someone at the city of Phoenix had to have an agreement, said, hey, we're good with this. Who did that?
The city of Phoenix was involved in that agreement, and that's what we're bringing forward at this point to the city council for the ratification of that agreement in the contract.
But one person had to say, go do the deal, do that deal. And you know, here's one other point I'd like to make, if I may. I'll get off of this part here because I think it could embarrass someone. I'm not going to do that. So at the end of the day, I don't even know if this is even legal What we're doing is, I'm going to give a statement, and Brad, you can answer this. Is it legal to be paying an off-site entity, even though they've got a management contract with the city of Phoenix, their health benefits? These monies are going directly to pay the union health benefits. That's what this is about. Is it legal to do that and say, we're going to give you this $1.5 million to pay for your health benefits?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, I wasn't there, but in context, as I understand it, as part of the negotiations back and forth, the cost to us would have exceeded what was offered up. And in response to that specific question, implicit in the amount we pay to First Transit as part of their contract is an amount embedded in there for employee benefits, presumably including health care.
Well, we never designated that before, but what I'm asking, these monies went directly. I think there's a gift clause problem here because we gave money, the city of Phoenix, if this vote goes through, is giving money to a private entity to deal specifically with their health benefits. It's a giveaway to them.
Mayor, members of the council, Councilman
Over and above
DeCiccio.
what they agreed to in their contract when they struck the deal with us.
This was a part of settling a dispute, a labor dispute, and as part of settling that, and as part of trying to resolve the impasse or the issue that was on the table at the time, we had a choice between options, and as long as you have a choice between options, there's not a gift clause problem.
What was the other option?
The other option was to pay $2 million to supplement the transportation during the Super Bowl that would have been jeopardized as a result of the strike.
But that was something that First Transit is supposed to pick up their costs anyways. They pick up 60% of the cost.
Actually, Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, the $2 million reflects additional service that needed to be provided beyond what the contractor was required to provide in the contract. So that would have been on the city's cost.
The bottom line is, I don't believe that this is legal, 1. 2, it was a backroom deal. 3, it was incumbent upon somebody to tell us that this was going on, and that never happened. It just didn't happen. And now all of a sudden, in order to strike a union giveaway is what this is. It's a clear union giveaway. The city of Phoenix is going to hand over $1.5 million of their taxpayer money to this union in order to basically pay for their benefits. And here's what's happening, and I'm going to put this out there. What you're seeing every single year happen with the transit strikes, every year we're almost facing a transit strike. What's happening is this. They want to become City of Phoenix employees. They've said it before. That's all part of it. They're out there to create enough chaos out there so that finally people get frustrated and say, you know what, maybe they ought to be City of Phoenix employees because they want to be part of the pension system. They want to get the health benefits. If that were to happen, if you think our pension problems are a problem today, they're only going to get worse. That's what you're starting to see, and you've been seeing it for years, and literally that is what's occurring. And the city of Phoenix is acquiescing. They're giving away millions of dollars, and this isn't going to be the last time. The next time that somebody brings up an issue and it's a union outside of the city of Phoenix, watch the city of Phoenix give them more money too. That's what's going to happen here. You've opened up a can of worms by doing this. You should never get involved in private negotiations. Shouldn't do that. That's between a union and the private contractor, but the city of Phoenix made a decision to get involved in a union discussion, and now it's costing taxpayers money. Period. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilman Makowski, do you have questions or comments?
You know, Mayor, I'm kind of confused because I got this memo back in 2015, January 20th, and it doesn't even explain half of what I was hearing from Sal right now. I really think that there might be some legal matters here. I would have liked to have this go to E-session so we can ask some questions to our legal counsel. I don't think it's appropriate to be asking questions in a formal meeting right now. I'm not sure if there's a deadline that we have, or can we wait to go into an E-session, and maybe I can ask for some questions in E-session that I believe might be some legal questions that we need to answer.
Mayor, members of the council, if that's the council's desire that this be continued, I think it could be continued for a short period, but the contractor does need to have certainty, is my understanding on this, before the end of June.
All right, so is your request for a continuance?
Mayor, may I ask one thing? I would like to, we end up in this direction, I'd like to know how this is done legally. How do we give this money away with that? I understand the rationale you gave out here. I don't buy it, but there has to be a legal foundation on that, Brad, and I'd like to know that myself.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Councilwoman, of course.
This is for staff. I assume at the end of these negotiations, you sign something so that legally we are obligated to pay this bill. Is that correct?
Mayor, Councilwoman Williams, no, we did not sign anything legal on this. What we gave was to First Transit an understanding that we would bring a change order to the City Council for their approval once we had the full information on the cost increase.
Is that recorded somewhere? Is it documented? I mean, could they turn around and sue us if we don't pay it? On what basis?
Mayor, Councilwoman Williams, that would be a matter for executive session to discuss there. The bottom line is that as I understand it, it was as just represented by staff, and they don't have a signed change order at this point. They may believe they have some other right beyond the change order to sue us, but that would be a matter we ought to discuss.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to continue this so we can get some legal advice in the E-session on which direction to take this issue.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion for a continuance. We have a second. We're looking at a date to put it on a future agenda.
Mayor? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
June 1st or June 15th.
We don't have an E-session on the 21st.
Call a special E-session. We'll call a special E-session.
Okay, but what do you, when should the continuance be placed on a future
Why don't we
agenda?
say June 15th? That will be able to coordinate the
June
calendars.
15th, create a problem? Okay, we'll put it on.
June 15th works.
June 15th. Okay, so the motion to continue is till June 15th. We have a second on that. All in favor, say
Well,
aye.
Mayor,
Oh,
just one
Councilman,
really
please,
quick
of course.
thing too. I'd like to have the legal justification. I also want all written material between us, the company, the unions, everything provided. I'd like to see every document that the city of Phoenix has on this agreement, and I'd like to make sure that it's available to the entire public, to the media, and everybody else. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we have a motion for continuance. We have a second. Councilman Pastor, please.
Can we go to June 22nd?
We don't have a meeting. Do we have a meeting on June 22nd?
I have it on my here as a formal. June 22nd.
Okay, the request is to go to June 22nd. Councilman, you okay with that?
I think our concern is that they need to know before the end of the fiscal year. So that is the last meeting of the fiscal year.
Fiscal year is
Yeah.
June 30th.
July 1.
Yeah.
So June 22nd is the last meeting of the fiscal year.
So I would like to go to June 22nd.
Okay, so the request is to go to June 22nd. The maker of the motion has accepted that. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 77, request to continue. Councilman Nowakowski.
Mayor, I'd like to continue this item for the next 2 weeks. I'd like to have all parties come together and have a conversation with it. If for some reason that the parties can't meet, I'll either ask for a denial, or send both groups to an abatement hearing officer to settle the case.
We have a motion to continue. We have a second. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. There be no business for this city council. This meeting is now adjourned.